So here we have it, the 360 camera by DJI on an Insta360 stick. So DJI's rumored 360 camera is actually here. I have it in my hands, and today's goal is to actually check out some real world footage of this camera and from this camera to see how it actually compares to something like the Insta360 X5. I'm going to do a proper comparison of this versus the X5, but this is going to be an actual real close look at the footage that comes straight out of this camera, along with some of the features that come with it and why you might want to look at buying the Insta360 or the DJI Osmo 360 camera. First off, this isn't sponsored by DJI. I paid for this with my own cash, so I'm going to be pretty honest, or I'm going to be very honest about it, so you can see, and then hopefully the footage will speak for itself, so you can have a look and see if it actually is any good or not. So it's partially cloudy out here right now. We've been going through patches of sun and cloud, so hopefully this will give a good insight as to what it's like in a lighting environment that's not the best. All of these 360 cameras and action cameras have a relatively small sensor. Now DJI claims to have a 1-inch equivalent sensor. There's some sort of small print there where they've somehow calculated that they have a 1-inch sensor, but it's not actually a 1-inch sensor. So I don't really know, but my understanding is that it's bigger than the Insta360 X5's sensor. So this thing is the first generation. DJI, of course, is no stranger to making cameras. They've made the ever so popular DJI Osmo Pocket 3. There's so many Osmo, they need to sort out the naming. The Pocket 3, which has been sold out in many places and it's quite hard to get by it, and people are still swearing by that as their main content creation camera. So the thought is, with their new 360 camera, they're going to use a bunch of that technology, put it into it, and make this incredible camera that captures everything around it and is going to compete with Insta360. So this test is going to test that footage. There is a bit of an increase in image quality in terms of the fact that this camera does 10-bit color. The X5 does 8-bit color. So we'll see from that perspective. So a bigger sensor, 10-bit color, and with a new firmware update, they're going to allow you to have a higher bitrate output as well. For some reason, when trying to update this camera, when I set it up, I was having a bit of a problem with the update. It kept failing. The camera was getting really hot. So I don't know if I have that option right now. Well, I haven't seen it in the settings. So we'll do another test with that. But this is how it is if you were to buy it right out of the box right today. This is the normal picture profile at 10-bit. So there's also D-Log M, which will make this environment a little bit flatter so we can edit it a bit better in post. So I'll do that now. This is the flat picture profile, and this is it non-color graded. This is what it looks like. And now this is it with it color graded. So you tell me what that looks like. I find that the LUT that DJI gives you way too much saturation. I'm actually not a big fan of that when it comes to the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro. So what do you guys think here? So let's talk about resolution and frame rates. This thing does 8K up to 30 frames per second, 6K up to 60 frames per second, and then if you drop it down to 4K, it'll do 100 frames per second. Now bear in mind, 4K, that's the 4K resolution with the whole 360. When we're outputting, we're not outputting that whole 360. You're only going to take a portion of that spherical image. So you're going to end up with quite a low resolution image by the time you crop in on a 4K image at 120. Same thing with the 6K. So I think honestly, most of the decent footage is going to come with a 8K sensor. Now I did a little test with the Insta360 X5 and I found that the image quality was really great whenever you had it kind of at arm's length on a selfie stick. But as soon as you start to crop in on that image, the image falls apart quite a bit. I think it's going to be the same here, so let's test it out. Right now, I am at arm's distance from the camera, and I'm going to walk back. I don't know, I'm going to walk past these bushes. Let's go and get to the other side of these. And my description of distance is pretty, not very accurate, but I'm a solid distance away from this camera. Let's do some, I'll just do some paces. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 paces away from the camera. So you tell me how that footage is. Also, we're kind of looking into the sun. There are 2 modes with this 360 camera. One where all of the lenses have a balanced exposure, both one side and the other. And then there's one where they separately expose as well. So we can try that right now. So this is independent exposure mode. So let's see what it's like on both sides. I'm gonna walk around the camera now. I'm on the other side. So independent exposure mode, does that make any difference? Maybe I should have walked around the first time with it. So this is independent exposure mode. Let's go back. This is balanced exposure mode. I'm gonna walk around to the other side. Of course, the clouds have come over, so there's a bit of shade now. This is balanced. This is probably what we'll end up using most of the time with this camera. So of course, this camera has pretty much all of the same standard modes that you get with all of the other 360 cameras, or at least the Insta360 X5. I'm walking here now to try and see what it's like if I'm in between the stitch line. I'm literally sideways to this camera. I'll get my phone out so you can see. And we're gonna see how this stitches an image. So here we have the side. What does this look like? At what point does my face get crazy? How does it handle it? I think Insta360 does a pretty good job at the stitch line. It's been getting better over the years. Now, one of the biggest pain points of 360 footage, of course, is recomposing it and outputting it nice and easily. At the start, I think a lot of these manufacturers were leaning on the fact that you might just be posting straight to Instagram. So they made the apps super easy to use, but then there was also like a side software that's slowly been getting better for the computer. DJI has released a studio version of its software, so you can recompose this footage. I'll overlay this video with some of that so we can see how that works. From what I've seen, it has all of the basic functionality as the Insta360 Studio software, reframing with keyframes, and then automated movements within that software, as well as probably some higher export options as well. That's really crucial if you're going to be doing any YouTube stuff or integrating some of this footage into professional workflows. You kind of got to have something a little bit more than the app. So that being said, what about the app? What is it like? What is my experience with it? So I'm gonna also overlay some of that footage because you're literally just getting this straight away from me now. I assume that it's gonna be very similar to Insta360s. We'll dig more into that. There is functionality there, but I can't imagine that it's gonna be as feature rich as 360s at the moment. So something that DJI has integrated, and they've been starting to do this with a lot of their products, is onboard storage, which is awesome. And with this 360 camera, they've integrated 128 gigabytes of footage, which is honestly very necessary for 8K footage. These files are massive, but it's also really awesome because that means that you don't need an SD card if you don't want one. Also, it's just a great backup to have it if you forget it. I've also briefly touched upon form factor, but also the Osmo 360 doesn't have a replaceable lens. What about the improvements over something like the Insta360 X5? Well, the X5 has this battery door, and I think that DJI made a point to fix this because they've highlighted it in their marketing. The door on the 360 X5 is it's just slidable. So there's been a time when there's been a couple of times when I've gone to go in the water and I've accidentally kind of moved this out, slid this out by accident, just by friction. And if you have this open, there's no seal there and you get in the water, of course your 360 waterproof 360 camera is absolutely toast. Whereas with the Osmo 360, there are little latched doors. So you actually have to push the latch sideways and then downwards to unlock the little door. So from my understanding, the camera is a little bit lighter, but I don't think the form factor is as good. The good thing about this X5 is the fact that I can hold it in my hand. It's actually way more ergonomically friendly. And then also whenever I'm using the screen, I can swipe around with my thumb. With the Osmo 360, I've noticed that whenever I go to swipe down from the top to reach one of the menu items, I often want to accidentally touch the lens and smear my thumbprint on the lens, which is something which is worth paying attention to. Another interesting thing with the form factor and the software is that when you tilt the camera sideways, the screen actually rotates as well, which is, I think, quite interesting and quite good, especially if you're going to mount it upside down as well. But I thought that was interesting. This screen doesn't seem to rotate. I think it's because it's clear that this thing is supposed to be upright like this. So what about single lens mode? A lot of these cameras are marketing themselves as almost 2-in-1. You get the 360 camera, and then you also have a single lens mode if you want. And the X5 has pretty good single lens mode, but it's definitely not competing with an action camera, just like a solely dedicated action camera. The quality isn't quite as good in my opinion. So this is single lens mode with the Osmo 360, and it's at 5K 30 frames per second. So let's have a little look. How does that look through here? I think that at least from the screen it looks better, but then again, that's always never really an accurate depiction. One thing I am noticing though is that I can't switch from the backward facing camera to the front facing camera whilst I record, and that's something you can do with the Insta360 X5, and I think that that's a huge benefit, especially if you're vlogging somewhere. You can kind of talk and then I can show you what's on the other side without having to switch my arm around. So that's like an interesting feature. I'm sure it's something that can be fixed with a firmware update though. So here we are, single lens mode on the Osmo 360, and then with my Osmo Pocket 3 right here. This is in standard with the 360 mode. So there's ultra wide, wide, and standard in terms of the field of view. And then of course with the Pocket 3, it's just set to about, I don't know, 20 something equivalent. So there's going to be a difference in field of view, but what does it look like in terms of quality? On the screen, it definitely looks darker on the Osmo 360 than it does on the Pocket 3. I'll get a little we'll have a little look on here. So if I film this with my phone, you can see that one image looks a little bit darker and there's a bit of a difference in the field of view. So let's do a little onboard audio test. Up until now, I've been using the Mic Mini going through the Osmo 360, but if you don't have that, what does the audio sound like out of the camera? This is quite a quiet environment right now. We're not in a loud city or anything, so, and there's no wind, so it's kind of hard to really put it to the test. But in a relatively quiet environment, does it pick up my voice very well? And how does that compare to when I connect it to the Mic Mini? They've also integrated a quick release system to the bottom of this camera, which I can confirm to you connects in the same way as that of the Action 5 Pro. So that quick release magnetic thing does work on this, and they've released their own set of accessories for the Osmo 360 that utilize that magnetic quick release mount that we haven't seen before. I don't have any of those, but I can confirm to you. Actually, I can show you. So here we have that magnetic quick release mount that infamously only works in one direction, which is kind of annoying. But we have these little cutouts here, as well as the thread, the screw thread mount thing. And I can confirm to you that this is the wrong way around. It doesn't go this way. So you have to flip it, and there you have it. It's attached to this little handle here. I've got this attached to a little like set of legs and stuff, but this bit up here is your main mount. So that's a positive. And the other thing that's interchangeable as well that nobody seems to be talking about is the battery. So the battery inside of this camera just so happens to be the exact same battery as that of the Action 5 Pro. Pretty much exactly the same, which is really awesome, and it's something that DJI doesn't normally do, especially with their drones. So if you have any spare DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro batteries laying around, they work with this as well, which is really, really awesome. Real quick, we are going to continue on with this Osmo 360 footage, but a lot of you that watch my videos aren't subscribed. You've heard it before on all the other YouTube channels. Subscribing shows that you like my content, and it helps elevate everything and allows my channel to grow, which allows me to make more videos like this. I'm really trying to make some kind of non-BS tech videos that are really going to help you out and help you make the right decision when buying tech. So if you can subscribe right now, even leave a comment if you feel so inclined, that would be super helpful. Let's get back into the video. So one of the downsides of the DJI Osmo 360 camera is that, of course, you've probably heard it before, the fact that these things do not have replaceable lenses. A big bummer, because these things are marketed as action cameras. Waterproof, rugged, capture action, capture it from 360. Yet the biggest problem with these things has been, I mean, if you put this thing down, like, you know, you're rock climbing or something and you have it attached to you, or you have it in your hand. Maybe you wouldn't have it in your hand if you're rock climbing, but you know what I mean. You put it down, lens is scratched, game over, waste of 400 bucks. 550 bucks. So Insta360 solved that problem with their replaceable lenses that can be just screwed off and bought for about 25 bucks. Huge improvement. So that would make you think that this thing sucks. Well, actually, they're a smart company and they obviously have a little bit of money behind them, because in the app, when you download the app, there's a little thing that says if you want to replace your lenses, they're 25 bucks to replace them. You can send them out to DJI without DJI care, and they'll replace the lens for 25 bucks. So let's talk about price and what you get with the camera itself. I got the cheapest base model version, which is essentially all that means is that it doesn't really come with any accessories. But what you do get with it is you get a little neoprene case to cover it, and you get this little silicone top, which is very similar to that of the X5, which sits on top of that and protects your lens. So overall, what are my personal thoughts? Well, I think that this camera is really awesome that it's in the market. It's going to fuel competition here, especially since GoPro has just been out of the game for so long. It's really going to force Insta360 to step up their game with the X6 whenever that comes out, and then vice versa. I think it's awesome that this thing has come out with the features that it has already. I really love the mic integration. That feels really natural. It feels like a upgrade from some of the other 360 cameras with the D-Log M, and then the 10-bit color, as well as higher bitrate options that are coming in the next firmware update as well. Downsides, of course, is the fact that it doesn't have that replaceable lens, but then again, they have to leave something for version 2. I really like how they've kept the mounting system that they've been using on their action cameras, so you can reuse that. And I think it's a huge plus that you can use the same batteries as that of your Action 5 Pro. That's hugely positive as well. The rest of it is yet to be determined. So that's about it for the Osmo 360 camera, the first impressions, hands-on video with real-world footage. What do you guys think? Do you like the image? Do you think it is that drastically different from something like the X5 if you've ever seen any of that footage? Leave a comment down below. I'd love to know what you think. Will you be getting the first generation of DJI's 360 camera, or are you going to go ahead and get the X5? Well, either way, I have affiliate links down below. If you decide to buy anything, it would help me greatly if you use my affiliate links. Please subscribe. It'll help me get to my goal of getting to 20,000 subs by the end of the year. We're almost at 10,000, and I just want to say thanks for watching.